Welcome to the Personal Tanya. Today is the 4th of Shvat. What we're learning in the sequence of Tanya, the book which teaches us all about ourselves, is that as human beings, we are deeply and profoundly influenced by the perceptions of our eyes. We're influenced by superficiality. And the reason for that is, like we learned in chapter 1, is because our souls originate in a divine energy called klippa, which means external or a shell or superficial. Because we come from a superficial divine energy, that's the reason why we are so deeply influenced by what we see, by what meets the eye. This is why, as human beings, we're so obsessed with celebrities, the people that we see on the big screen, even though the people that really are the brains behind them, we never even hear about them at all, because they're simply not able to meet the eye. This is the reason why the marketing industry is one of the most biggest billion-dollar industries out there today, because it doesn't really matter what you say as much as it matters how you say it. With this understanding, we can begin to understand the relationship that we have with the souls within us. We have a godly soul, which is burning for love, a natural love for God. And we have an animal soul, which is self-absorbed and just wants to indulge. But because what meets the eye is the animal soul and the physical body. If you think about the body and the soul is hidden inside of the body. So too the godly soul is hidden inside of the animal soul. And that's why we don't pay much attention to the hidden love. Anytime that we are presented with the pleasures of indulgence of this world. In today's Tanya, the Tanya defines this state as exile, defines it as a state of golus. Golus, exile, means when there is a cognitive dissonance, when the perception of our hearts conflicts with the vision of our eyes, when our convictions inside don't match the visuals of our eyes, when what you see is not what you get. That is cognitive dissonance. That is golus. That is exile. The Hebrew word for exile, gola, is the same exact word as redemption, geula, with one difference, that redemption, geula, has the letter aleph. The Rebbe explains that the letter aleph represents a'alefcho, which is awareness. When we infuse awareness into a state of exile, we add the aleph into gola. We now have geula, which is redemption. When we learn Tanya, and we blow the cover of this masquerade, we blow the cover of this cognitive dissonance, we are bringing geula, awareness and redemption to ourselves and to the entire world. I find it fascinating that in the Hayom Yom, which is the daily teaching from the Rebbe for this date of the 4th of Shvat, the Rebbe addresses exactly this point. The Rebbe explains that the word for Egypt in Hebrew is Mitzrayim, which means limitation or constriction. And the Rebbe explains that the spiritual Egyptian exile is the animal soul's restricting and concealing the godly soul so severely that the godly soul is compressed to the degree that it is diminished and obscured. What this means is that the hidden love of the godly soul is simply out of sight, out of mind, because it's covered up by the mask, the superficiality of the animal soul and the physical body. Exodus from Egypt, the celebration of Passover, the redemption from Egypt, is the removal of this constriction and bounds, i.e. when the intellect and the brain illuminates the heart, bringing about the fine character traits, translates it into actual practice. It's amazing to see how the Hayom Yom from today matches perfectly with the teaching of today's Tanya. But the moment that we engage in a matter which is explicitly and unequivocally challenging our faith, at that moment, there is no masquerade over our godly soul. At this moment, our godly soul is exposed because it's a do or die moment. You're given the choice to kiss the sword or the cross. And if you're going to choose to deny your faith, then you are explicitly, openly, and unequivocally breaking or violating the hidden love of the godly soul. This is the only time that Tanya says that the hidden love becomes revealed, when it's obvious and apparent that the godly soul's love is at stake. It's at this point when we're faced with a challenge of faith, with a challenge of idolatry, that the hidden love is not hidden anymore because the godly soul is now obvious, and hence the love is not hidden. When this happens, when we're faced with an idolatrous with a forced idolatrous moment, when we're faced with a moment where we have to choose between cutting ourselves off from God through idolatry or remaining loyal to God, the hidden love comes to be revealed because this is a moment where there's nothing covering over the godly soul. At this moment, it's a super powerful revelation of the hidden love. So powerful that even the wicked, the Rasha, the failing Jew, whose hearts control them, as we've learned previously in Tanya, by them, the folly vanishes in face of the wisdom, just like dark dissipates before light. The Alter Rebbe uses an example of wax melting before the fire, because the mentality of the animal soul is folly, it's stupidity, whereas the mindset of the godly soul is truth and wisdom. So when push comes to shove and we come to a state of clarity where we're about to violate our faith, it's now that the hidden love comes to be revealed, and the desires of the animal soul just dissipate. Like King Solomon said, the dominance of truth over folly is like light over darkness. And the effect of the hidden love becoming revealed is so intense that it even impacts our thought, speech, and action, refusing to allow ourselves to experience sin, even in thought or in sin or in action, even if you don't mean it. In other words, the person who's faced with a choice of idolatry, when his hidden love comes to be revealed and he's like, oh my God, this is a moment where I'm going to have to defy and deny my godly soul and my hidden love, he says he will refuse to express idolatry even in speech or even in action when he doesn't mean it. This is the power of the hidden love becoming revealed, which is why the hidden love is the shortcut method to self-mastery over thought, speech, and action. Previously in Tanya, we've discussed the long method to controlling your thought, speech, and action, the garments of your soul, and that was through meditation. But the shortcut method is by arousing your hidden love, because when that hidden love comes to be revealed, you're able to dominate and master your thought, speech, and action, because that hidden love is so powerful. But imagine if we could figure out a way to weaponize this consciousness. Imagine if we were able to discover, to retro-engineer our superficiality, our klipa consciousness into such a way that we could see idolatry in every spiritual decision. If there was a way to do that, then every time we're faced with any spiritual decisions, not just with the existential ones, we would be able to arouse the hidden love. And that is what the next two chapters of Tanya are going to do. From this point on, the next chapter, chapter 20, is going to redefine our perception of reality, to redefine the bigger picture of existence, allowing us to discover idolatry within every spiritual decision, thus unleashing the hidden love every time we're faced with a desire for sin. For today, that's a wrap. Let's try to apply. You can do this.